Hey everyone, welcome to the ShootNLoot E3 special. I am your host, Outrider Kev, and to my physical front is Rob the Man.
Hello, everybody.
Hey everyone, welcome as we talk about some of the exciting games that came out at E3. I want to say June 12th to the 14th. I'm not entirely too sure. I'm pretty sure it was about a week ago. But again, it was a weird E3. It wasn't physical. It wasn't at the LA Convention Center. It was all a digital event. But either way, we got some great and exciting news that came out of that show. Some great announcements from Xbox. I think Xbox really killed it at their show and showing exactly what Game Pass was all about. What did you think of Xbox's conference, Rob?
I thought it was good. It was very exciting. There was a lot to look forward to if you're gonna buy a Xbox console.
If you're in that ecosystem,
Yeah, if you're if that's your console of choice, if that's what you do. I think there's a lot to look forward to as far as having Game Pass as a subscription service that Sony isn't going. It's a path
right?
Sony's not going down. So they brought it.
They did.
Yeah,
They really did what Sony did about I want to say 2 or 3 E3s ago, where
yeah,
it was just game after game after game after
yeah,
game, and these are games that are coming out not only soon but on the horizon. And even Phil Spencer even said it himself that there's gonna be a major game released every quarter, and
yeah.
you're seeing the dominoes that they had been building up since. I mean, again,
From acquiring all those
from
studios
acquiring
and
all the studios
yeah,
for taking their time in building. You know what? We lost this generation. We lost this fight with the PS4. Let's set up the dominoes to take back our win
mhm,
with the Series X or whatever the next console was going to be, right? And
yeah,
now you're starting to see the fruits of those labors of being released now. You're seeing trailers and trailer after trailer after trailer of every single game that they have. Not every single studio, but a lot of games. We
yeah,
have a date for Starfield. We know what a lot of Bethesda games are working on. A lot of the indie studios that they had acquired, all the partnerships for every Game Pass game that's coming out day one on the service.
yeah. That's crazy. Those day one releases that's crazy.
Right. Just
Yeah,
like Outriders, you're getting sure like it's not on the same level as Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima. You're not getting those like major like groundbreaking genre of games, right? That Xbox is still building towards, but they have an interesting lineup of games that there's going to be something for everyone, and that's the net. And again, I can't help but compare it to the Netflix model, where
right.
not only are they going for the mainstream, but they're making something for every person who has different tastes in different genres, right? You have your anime fans here. We have these animes that are popular right now, that you may not get anywhere else, only on Netflix. I feel like Game Pass is doing the same thing. They're developing games and experimenting with games and giving developers the creativity to make some weird games to attract those people and those
Yeah,
audiences. Because again, a lot of these games, like we talked about in the last podcast, a lot of these games have a lot of good word of mouth. They sell more copies on other platforms because of what was happening on what was happening on Game Pass,
yeah.
and the sales from there is evident. Like, we have numbers, they have statistics that back up that claim, and this E3 special just showed you we're gonna fire on fucking cylinders. Get ready.
From a developer's point of view, releasing a game on Game Pass could be a way to get around releasing a broken game or a game that's in a broken state that requires, patching and bug fixing and things like that.
Like second extension.
It's almost like saying, "Hey, you're getting this with Game Pass.
Yeah.
Give us a grace period, essentially." You know what I mean? It's gonna People aren't gonna be so hard on a studio
Right.
if they're getting the game as part of the subscription service,
Yeah.
and the studio has time to kind of bring the game up to where they could release it at. It's essentially free testing for your games if that's how
And
if that's from a developer's point of view.
with Game Pass, like, I don't, kind of like you said, like, no one wants to pay a product and be a beta tester for a finished product, right?
Exactly, exactly.
But with Game Pass, it takes some of that edge off because you're buying to the service that not only gets you that game
Yeah,
that you may be, like you said, beta testing, but
yeah.
you have all these other games on top of what you're playing.
Right, right. No,
But either way,
it's. Go ahead.
we're excited to see what Game Pass will lead us into the future. But let's talk about some of the games that excited us during the E3 presentation. And the
All
first game I
right.
have here is Far Cry 6. Okay, now let me preface this a little bit with the Far Cry series. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan
Really?
of the Far Cry series. I'm not a fan of a lot of Ubisoft's shooters other than The Division. The Division, I'm all in on The Division, right? I love The Division. There was a point where I used to love the single player Splinter Cell games, right? Where you played Sam Fisher. but those are that's an era from before. Like they don't make those type
Yeah.
of games anymore. I love Assassin's Creed. I like the new game that they made, Phoenix Rising, right? That like
Yeah.
Greek sort of Zelda Breath of the Wild ish type of
Yeah.
game. That's cool. But for whatever reason, Far Cry never really got to me, or I never got the hooks in me, right? I bought Far Cry 4 on the PS4, played it for a couple hours. I'm like, okay, this is fun. Taking down an outpost, getting some guns, hunting some animals, make upgrades and pouches and this and that and that and that. It just felt like a lot of busy work.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of Far Cry games don't really change that much from the formula, but for whatever reason, Far Cry 6 really speaks to me. Not because of the gameplay that they've developed, but it just looks more fun to me.
Right.
Like it looks like they're doing some crazy mechanics with building your own weapons, having wacky weapons, having a giant world to explore and cause mayhem in, right?
Yeah.
Which again, that's Ubisoft's MO. They make huge open world games. The Division, Phoenix Rising, every Assassin's Creed out there.
Is Just Cause a Ubisoft game?
No, that's Square Enix.
Square-Enix.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, Ubisoft, they're the masters of making big open world games.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into 4, didn't buy 5 because again, same thing. I was like, it just looked more of the same. Far Cry 6, you can argue, also looks a little bit more of the same. But again, the fact that it's guerrilla war fighting, the fact that it's like not Cuba, right? The fact that you're having this sort of time period and these characters and these wackiness and be able to have either an alligator, a dog in a wheelchair, or a punk rock chicken as your mascot. I think
That's great.
it just has so much personality that I can't ignore it. Like for whatever reason, it's firing on all cylinders for me. That you know what, I think this might be the one that's gonna grab me.
As a fan of of the Far Cry series, because I'm a huge fan. That's like a guilty pleasure of mine. Those Far Cry games. Um, what a lot of what you're describing sounds like any Far Cry game.
Mm-hmm.
They all have that stuff. But this one, there's something about this one that seems, especially coming off the heels of number 5, where 5 was almost like a rehash of 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the graphics weren't much better. It was a lot buggier. Great thing about it was that you could play along with a friend, and then you created your own character as the main character. It wasn't like a predetermined character.
Right.
Every other game has a predetermined character. But 6 just looks like all of the best parts of every Far Cry game, because they all have like their own little thing that's only around for that one. I got into
like a little bit of action and then that crazy mayhem of the villains, right?
From that, even down to the mechanics. Like I think 4 has a hang glider, and they, I don't remember which one.
Which again, for a person like me who's never played, again, I didn't play much of 4. I literally just made like a couple of bases, and that was it. That was a whole giant map that I never explored.
Yeah, it's pretty expansive.
So knowing that there's all these mechanics that I've never experienced for. I'm excited because they've had years to iterate on that,
and to fine tune it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I've loved them since 3. I played Blood Dragon. I still have to finish it. Mm-hmm. The 80s techno apocalyptic one.
Which they're making an anime on Netflix as well.
Of Blood Dragon?
Yeah.
That's fucking dope. But yeah, I've played it. I haven't finished it. 4 I loved. 5 was so. Primal was my favorite, hands down. I thought it was really cool.
Wasn't that the one where they did reuse the map from 4 and then just
I think it started as an expansion of 4, but then it just became its own game.
Its own standalone game, almost like Miles Morales for Spider-Man.
Or ODST.
Okay.
Yeah, where it was supposed to be just like an add-on, but then it just became its own thing, and I really liked it because you're it's there's never been a game like that where you play as a prehistoric man in the first person. You know, like there's Turok, but that's not that.
Which again, like I mentioned in the last podcast, there's not enough dinosaur games out there. So that's good either way to have the the primal setting. I heard a lot of good things about Primal when that came out. That was what I would hear on YouTube, podcasts, things like that. A lot of people like Primal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The hunts were amazing. The way you control your animal, they were very cool. Your owl, you have like an owl that you hoot at. But no, I love the Far Cry game. So Far Cry 6 was on my radar from day one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you already had. Were you going to buy it already? Did you know much about the game before you had seen the trailer at E3?
Far Cry is like in the default yes. like if there's a Far Cry game, I'm gonna get it. Even if it's bad, like I'm not even gonna read the reviews. I'm just gonna get it. and play it and decide for
Oh,
myself.
I get you. Yeah, you have those franchises
Yeah.
where like they make another Halo, I'm gonna
Yeah.
play that. They make
Yeah.
another Final Fantasy, I'm gonna play
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
know, because I just love that series,
Yeah.
even if they're good or bad.
Yeah, and I love how they're disjointed too, you
Yeah.
know, and they focus a lot on their villains. They put a lot of focus on their main villains in the Far Cry series.
What do you think of Giancarlo Esposito being the villain for this one?
I think it's awesome to bring in a named actor. They had the guy from 3 that played Voss.
Hmm.
He was a he ended up being in a he's the Scorpion in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, really?
He's the villain
Okay.
in Far Cry 3. And I forgot his name. But yeah, he was a great villain. Pagan Min was a great villain, but having a named actor playing the villain, I think is a good route
Right.
because they could bring that gravity to those characters. They can kind of work with thin material,
Yeah.
you know, video game level script writing, you know,
Hmm.
but really bring gravity to it or really bring menace to it. I think that he's perfect for that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm excited really from what I saw. Again, like, Far Cry's really not on my radar.
Yeah.
I saw trailers for Far Cry 5, they didn't speak to me. I like the idea though of going after some crazy religious cult. That sounds cool, right? But again, still doesn't speak to me. I didn't like the settings. Like, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Far Cry 6 really does speak to me. I love that era of Cuba, right? For all intents and purposes, guerrilla war fighting was such a cool, interesting time, especially during that era of espionage as well. I want to see how that all plays out and some of the tropes that they do for dictators like Fidel Castro and things like that. You know?
There's a thing speaking to the maps for these games.
Yeah.
That the maps almost become like a character themselves. So like whatever the setting is in every Far Cry game is super important to the things you do. It's super important to the culture of the people that you talk to. It's super, you know, like it permeates every factor of the game, like from the way the game looks to the interior design of like the houses and stuff like that. So they really commit to their settings. That's one of the fun things about that franchise. But that Cuba setting, I can't think of another game that has a setting like that.
The only thing I can think of is some levels of Call of Duty. Like some levels of Call of Duty had like a Cuba looking
or
location,
even like certain parts of Vice City.
Right, exactly. Does Far Cry have co-op? Can you play those games co-op?
Starting in 5.
Starting in 5.
Starting
so does this?
5.
Do you think this one has co-op?
I don't see why they would take a step back. But in 5, it was buggy. It was very buggy.
It wasn't like a seamless thing.
There was a lot of like for example, my brother and I were playing it, and if he was on a helicopter and he'd take off, I would spawn in the air. If he went too far, I would spawn in the air outside of the helicopter, free falling.
What? That's a huge. That's a huge oversight.
Shit like that it was like it seemed like it was a Rush multiplayer thing.
Okay.
Like they put some mechanics in there without thinking about the entire implication of those mechanics.
Okay. I hope they fix that co-op. It doesn't look like maybe they're doing that crazy stuff with a helicopter. Maybe who knows? It looks like they have a lot of fun, vehicles. I'm really interested in the weapon designs that they're making for this game. Like you said, how they would fabricate weapons in that era of Cuba. They had to make their own shit.
They still do.
And so it looks cool that they're making was it like a chainsaw thing that throws discs?
Yeah, and it's the Macarena.
Hey, Macarena.
Little racist.
But again, I love that it's that personality of what that game represents that I love about what's being represented, right?
Yeah.
I want to play in that world. I want to play in the pseudo 1960s Cuba, right?
Yeah,
is that the time?
1950s, 60s, yeah.
Okay. That's the world I want to play in because I haven't seen that type of setting that much in games, you know.
And for me, like just being a history buff in general, the Cuban Revolution is like a crazy I geek out about it. Any documentary I could watch about it. It's a fascinating time in history. The way Castro and Che Guevara and all of them overthrew Batista.
Yeah.
And if that's the time you're playing in that dictatorship type of where it's just like musical chairs of dictatorships and like a couple of I think in 20 years they had 3 dictators, you know? That's like a really interesting, volatile point in history. Even if it's like a pseudo version of that.
Yeah, no,
but that's what we're playing through. It's you know, that's as one of my history geek interests in you know, that's one of the eras that I'm interested in the most.
Where was Far Cry 4 setting? Was that in the Himalayas?
It was in the Himalayas.
I like how each game is a different
that's
setting.
What I'm saying. The setting is very tied into.
But again,
the
4 didn't speak to me. The setting of 5 didn't speak to me. This one speaks for me. So this is the one I'm gonna get into.
Yeah.
And they've had 6 games to develop their mechanics and win me over.
I think the first one, but I don't know if it was the first one or the second one, is Australia. Second one is Africa, or vice versa. I don't remember. Third one is
Like an island, like the
South
Mediterranean.
America, somewhere in South America.
Oh, okay.
Fourth one is in the Himalayas. Fifth one's in the American Midwest.
Yeah.
Sixth one is in the Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Blood Dragon is like 80s
80s.
neo apocalyptic shit. Tron mixed with
So you're sold on Far Cry 6?
Yeah, I'm sold on all of them.
I'm definitely gonna buy it this October. That's when the game's releasing.
Cool.
It's gonna be a little hard because remember I had mentioned in the previous podcast that I want to buy Resident Evil 8 in October for Halloween. Yeah. Maybe I'll try to beat 8 because 8 is not gonna be a long game. I think I'll try to beat that before I go into Far Cry 6.
Yeah, or that'll. I'm probably gonna play it right away. I think.
Okay.
Do you know if that's a day one?
I mean the date could change, but that's the date that they're aiming for right now.
Okay. All right. So for my first game is I want to say it's is it an indie game? Is it?
Yeah, it is.
It's an indie game. It's Somerville by developer Jumpship. And this game was made by one of the developers that worked on Limbo and what was the other game? The other
Inside.
Game? Inside.
The studio's co-founder Dino Patti previously co-founded Playdead and worked on Limbo and Inside. And I love that their studio is called Jumpship.
Yeah.
That's such a funny play on words.
That's great.
I'm pretty sure they left on amicable terms. They're just a funny name to name your studio, you know?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're jumping ship. We're making a Limbo Inside-ish type of game.
Yeah.
You know?
We're doing our own thing. But the animations in this game look super smooth. It's like that 2D platforming puzzle game, like in the vein of Limbo and Inside. If you haven't played Limbo, you're like this little big-headed kid who's just a silhouette going through this, this kind of film noir horrorscape, and you're just making, doing these puzzles. The puzzles get increasingly difficult as you go. Somerville looks to be in that vein, so I'm very excited. I love those games. They're almost cathartic, and sometimes you do a piece over and over and over, and then you finally get it.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding, so I can't wait to play Somerville. That was definitely one that stood out for me.
That's always such a hard thing to balance with puzzle games. It's like, you don't want to make it too easy where it's not rewarding, but you don't want to make it too hard where you just bang your head against the wall.
Yeah. Definitely, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want it to be punishing.
Somerville looks really good to me. I'll be honest with you. I played some of Limbo, never bought Inside, but since again through the power of Game Pass, I'm gonna have access to this game. I'm down to play it and give it a shot. It definitely gives me super like Signs, World of Worlds vibes, which again, a setting that I am definitely down to play a very like theme heavy game because it doesn't look like it. Sorry, I don't know. Are Limbo and Inside, are they like story heavy, or is it like environmental story where the story you get it through the gameplay?
You get it through the gameplay. There's no cutscene. There's nothing like that. Everything that happens from that angle.
And you see things happening. You see stuff in the environment. Like, okay, this is what I have.
And there are definitely like there are cutscenes, but the camera doesn't change. The camera doesn't cut from there. So I guess it's not a cutscene, but it's an animation.
Okay.
Yeah. So you see, like for example, you come up on the end of the first level, you see some branches or something. The branches start to move, and it's a giant spider.
Right.
So things reveal themselves in that way, in very cinematic ways, but you have that deadpan camera angle.
In a lot of these games inside Somerville, Limbo, they have very dark themes or very heavy themes, right?
Yeah.
Is that part of why you like it? Like, do you like playing these games where it takes you kind of almost like through a gritty, not gritty, sorry, that's the wrong word. Almost like through a somber tale or a dark tale.
Yeah, I think it just pushes when we were kids playing games, on NES and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, there weren't games that were somber. No, that wasn't a thing.
That wasn't.
You know what I mean? Like that wasn't a way.
Because games were meant to be fun and get your blood pumping.
Yeah. So having these games that are a little bit more somber, more cerebral, it's a different place. It's a different pastime than a game that requires, quick reflexes and things like that. You can just sit there and think about it and look at the situation and put things together and advance that way.
Yeah.
They are dark. I don't know if that's why I like it,
mm-hmm.
but I don't mind that they're, some of the stuff in Limbo was incredibly violent, and you're looking at a child getting chopped up by buzzsaws and getting decapitated by a giant spider, things like that. That's not why I like it, but it was just, it made it feel like it kind of raised the stakes a little bit. That the deaths were so graphic.
Yeah.
It brought stakes to the table.
No, yeah, it definitely, because again, you're not a character that's has a gun,
No,
that has
no.
powers. No, you're just
You could slide boxes back and forth. That's what you could do. That's what you do, and then you jump like a rag doll.
Let me ask you this: when I was watching that trailer, I was noticing something again with a lot of Game Pass games. It's coming day one, obviously.
Yeah.
Being developed by
It
uh,
was developed by
Jump
Jump Ship.
Ship, right?
Yeah.
Um, would you want this game to be a full experience, or could you see this game being episodic, or let's say you get part one, part two at a later week, and a part three at a later week, and again make it episodic until you finish the entire series, or would you want it all in one go? But
I mean, I think I'm pretty. I'll take it as it comes, but I think that a game like this could be episodic, like kind of like the Wolf Among Us type,
right.
but without story. I don't like a
Tell me why.
like a. I'm sorry.
Another game that was episodic that came out on Game Pass was Tell Me Why, where
Right,
you
right.
played this character who, again, seems. I think
I
I'm
thought
not
you were
sure.
telling me to tell you.
Oh no!
was
Tell
like,
me why ain't nothing gonna. No, but this is about this game about a brother and sister. One of the siblings is trans, and they talk about this dark history and the thing that happened to them in the Alaskan Northwest. I think almost like
what a
a
place.
Wolverine story. Like something weird happens, but what happened for a lot of Tell Me Why is that it was coming out episodically every 2 weeks. It was only 3 episodes. But most people didn't get past the first episode, and they just forgot about it by the second
Oh,
episode.
I see.
I need to get back to it. I like Tell Me Why. I thought it was a pretty cool story
Yeah.
between this brother and sister, and the dynamic of some dark ass stuff that happened to them as kids, right?
Yeah.
And again, you don't know, maybe they're misremembering it, but then by the end of the first episode, you're like, oh no, something happened out there
Yeah.
when they were kids, and it's not. And again, I don't really play I know games like Life is Strange, they have paranormal stuff happening. So I don't know if this is that, because again, it's its own thing.
So like games like Limbo and Somerville and Inside, yeah, there is a story there.
Yeah.
But without like an embedded story that's kind of in the forefront.
Right.
They're more like scenarios.
No, yeah, definitely.
They almost feel like nightmares. Like there's
almost
no
like
there's,
black and white movies with there's no dialogue. It's just all
like silent
imagery.
films. Silent films, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was but yeah, it definitely it has that I think that brings some moodiness to it. It brings almost like attention to while while you're doing the puzzles. The doom and the gloom brings attention to the puzzle solving that probably wouldn't be there if there was bright colors and things like that.
Definitely.
But as far as it being episodic, I don't think that would, now that we've talked about it a little bit, I don't think that would be a service to it, because it's I liken those types of games almost like a storybook.
Right, where you're gonna play for a weekend, have this experience, and then be done with it.
Yeah, like you play it 20 minutes a night, you solve 2 or 3 puzzles a night, and then you just drop it, and then you finish it, in a week, and then you move on, right?
Right.
So it's almost like I think of it like that, like a bedtime story. So that's why sometimes it's okay that it's scary. Sometimes it's okay that, you know what I mean, that it gets a little heavy. But especially Limbo, when you beat the game, you end up in the first scene.
Really?
Yeah. So you end up in the first scene and you go through the whole thing again.
Because you're stuck in limbo.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So yeah, I never finished Inside, but no, that game grabbed my attention. Just loving that type of it's a different type of storytelling that to me, I think it's new in gaming. It's not like anything I've seen.
I wouldn't say it's new in gaming. I see plenty of indie games that follow a similar pattern, but you're right. Inside and Limbo have that uniqueness that's known to that studio, and I'm glad that this new studio, Jump Ship, is also going along a similar path. Maybe taking some cues. Maybe they're gonna change the formula up. Maybe it is in a Limbo or Inside successor.
Some
maybe
kind of space invasion.
Exactly, and I love the imagery that you see in the beginning or at the end of the trailer, where you see a shadow show up by the doorway, and it's like, and the kid's just like, what's over there? Like, what the hell's that?
And the door's
like,
open.
dude, the tension that you'll feel from those last seconds of the trailer, that's cool.
Yeah, no, I hope I can't wait to play it.
Yep, and it's gonna be coming out on Game Pass. Do we know what date it comes out on?
Let me find out. Give me 1 second.
Now, talking about doom and gloom, and talking about from Somerville, let's talk about the next game that I'm excited for that was announced at this E3, Metroid Dread. Now,
Metroid Dread.
Metroid Dread was a game announced by Nintendo. I don't know if this is the Metroid Prime sequel that they've been announcing. I think it's a smaller project, but this is a sequel to the Metroid Fusion game that came out on Game Boy Advance like 12 years ago, or even more, I think, by this point. But yeah, it's a sequel. This is gonna be the ending of this particular Samus's story of her adventures as a bounty hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And this again, almost like Somerville, like Metroid games aren't happy shooters or
no, somber.
They're somber shooters. They're lonely shooters. It's about isolation.
2022, by the way, for Somerville.
Somerville, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna get it next year.
Yeah.
Um,
so isolation and Metroid.
Yeah, exactly. Isolation. Or games like Castlevania, games like Metroid, the Metroid series, they invented that whole like backtracking, get an upgrade. Okay, now you have access to these areas that you were before because you couldn't get access before.
Right.
Things like that. They invented that
style
genre
of level design,
which a lot of games have perfected upon it, and a lot of indie games make homages to it, like Hollow Knight, game that is an indie game and follows that formula. Guacamelee, another one that follows that same formula. A lot of indie games have come and gone that have improved that formula because again, this isn't a formula that a lot of AAA development. A lot of AAA developers are doing, right? Yeah. You're not having a lot of these backtracking or these homages to the Metroid Castlevania feel. That's being done by the indie side, which again is great. It's perfect for that area. But Nintendo putting money behind it really gets me excited because at the end of the day, Hollow Knight, Dead Cells, right? Those type of games, they're not Metroid. Yeah. You know, say they're not that character, they're not that story. Right. And I want to play the original Metroid. I want to play those Metroid games that make me feel that way when I play them. And again, it is a little bit of a nostalgia trip, but I'm excited that they're making this game. And you saw the trailer where it looks like she is exploring an AI inhabited world, and she's being chased by this crazy robot she can't defeat.
Right.
What did you think of it when you saw it?
It looked heavy for a Nintendo title.
Right? Yeah. It doesn't look like something that would be among their titles. Yeah. But again, Metroid has always been that. It's just
the dark version.
Exactly. Like usually a lot of not that a lot of fans, but a lot of Nintendo fans know that. You know, you have your F-Zero, you have your super fast racing. I'm going a million miles an hour. Yeah. And then you have your weird games like Earthbound, and you have Mario, Zelda.
Fox.
It's Star Fox. You have all the staples, right? Yeah. Metroid's always that weird, not the weird game, but it's always been one of the more darker theme games. Yeah. Because even some of their newer IPs like ARMS, like the fighting game ARMS, or their new shooter Splatoon, everything's super light, cheery, bright, right? Yeah. But Metroid, even the Metroid Prime, when it came out on the Wii, again, it's all about isolation. It's all about being by yourself. What happened in this world? Almost like Somerville. It's environmental storytelling because there's no one really talking to you. You're not talking to anyone. You're figuring things out as you go. You're fighting bosses as you go, and you're there to explore.
It's like the kids' version of Dead Space,
right?
The 2D kids' version of Dead Space, because that's kind of what the original Metroid was, right?
Definitely.
You crash land. Don't you crash land?
Yeah, you crash land on any world, and you have to figure out how to get out of there. Again, and even from the original creators, Alien was a big inspiration for that.
Yeah,
you know,
the xenomorph, isn't it? Mm-hmm. In Metroid, they have a xenomorph. I think, in the original
Ridley. Huh? Ridley.
No. There was a xenomorph like alien in the original Metroid.
No, yeah, Ridley.
It was named Ridley.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
After the Aliens movie.
After Ripley.
Ripley.
No, it could be Ridley.
I think it's a play on words. We'll double check that.
It's Ellen Ripley is the character and Ridley Scott's the director.
Exactly. But yeah, they have.
So it could be either one.
I'm excited to play the game. I'm excited that they went back to again the 2D, 3D, where it's a 3D models but in a 2D plane, right? And you're trying to, go through levels, open up doors, and again, this whole like the name suggests, it's just dread. Yeah. You're being chased around by this AI, and it feels like
you can't kill.
You can't kill. Maybe later on you can. Yeah. Once you've gone powerful enough. But it kind of gives me again that same vibe from Alien Isolation, that game where you can't kill this thing.
Bringing it back to Alien, right?
Right, and that's again, and it feels like they're going back to their roots, and I like how this is a continuation of the fusion story that they had set up in the Game Boy Advance games.
Do you think that developers are going to be more willing to embrace like the 2D or top down or some of the more like antiquated angles now that from the third person camera angle, like behind the back, or even the first person angle has been done to death. Do you think that we're gonna see more 2D games coming out? Because it feels like there's more 2D games coming out now than there's been since Super Nintendo was a thing.
I think because again, it's that indie
Right.
development that the people who grew up making or loving these games
Yeah.
are making those games. And then I'm sorry, again, it seems like to me like a
Yeah.
lot of indie developers can't have access to the AAA studios and the best graphics cards, and like
Yeah.
anything that you would need millions of dollars for.
So
And
they
again,
got to start
Far
somewhere.
Cry 6 is a million, not $1 million game. It's like a multi-million
Yeah.
dollar production value.
Summer blockbuster.
One of the best Metroid examples, Axiom Verge, was made by one guy for like 10 years, and
Wow.
it's one of the most darkest homages to Metroid. You know what I'm saying? And he sold gangbusters. But again, one guy made the entire game pixel by pixel, right?
Wow.
Uh, and you're starting to see that. Not that triple. I don't think AAA will ever go back to that style, but indie developers are starting to get up to that style where they can make those games in 3D or pixel or what have you, right? Even Shovel Knight, another famous game that's it's like Mega Man, Metroid, those type of scenarios. They don't stay with the 8-bit color palette. They use all range of colors that you have available now, but then have it in that format.
So that brings us to the next game, which is Replaced, which is by Sad Cat Studios, that is kind of a Metroid homage set in like a Blade Runner style
Blade
world.
Runner.
So you get like, again, we get Ridley Scott and Metroid in the same sentence again with Replaced, and it's one of those Castlevania-esque games, but it's like this neo noir, cyberpunk type of setting, pixelated graphics,
Yeah,
but very detailed animations. It's very cool.
very
It seems,
detailed
yeah,
pixels
yeah.
for the environments, for some of the enemy
The
types.
set design is amazing. The game, the level design, the character design, it's really cool. And that's another game that I wanted to bring up because it's scratching that kind of modern retro itch there, and
Yeah.
you're getting all these parts of different things that you love, all kind of in one thing, kind of. So it seems very inspired by Blade Runner, though.
Right.
Even the name Replaced in Blade Runner, the robots were called replicants.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a play on that. So it's
definitely.
It's heavily inspired by it.
And it's amazing that this is Sad Cat Studios' first major game that they're making, and they're already starting off such a good foot, and they already have a big spotlight on them because of Game Pass, because of this conference.
Right.
People want to play that. Sure, maybe people won't finish it. Maybe might think that you might pick up and then drop off. Who knows how these games end up being, right?
After you spend some time with them, things become clear whether they're fun, engageable, all that stuff.
Yeah, but either way, Replace looks really cool. I love the aesthetic. I love this, like you said, like this Blade Runner type of world. I can't help but notice that the art style, the way that the camera pans out, it really plays with that 3D dimensional look that a lot of these 2D games have been implementing. I know you haven't played Octopath Traveler.
No,
Think of an old school Final Fantasy back when it was Super Nintendo. You have the little maids, little robots, and you're fighting like a dragon right on screen, right?
Yeah.
Octopath Traveler has 3D effects, has distance between the sprites, between the castle in the foreground and the character in the
environmental perspective.
Exactly.
Like that, yeah.
And again, like when you cast a spell, fire spell, it's not like a little pixel fire. No, it's like 3D fire coming out of the pixel character, and they have a lot more animation that you can do today. Again, using the technology that is available now. Replacement reminds me of that, where they're taking this to the animation, putting a lot of 3D elements to elevate it to something new, or to give it a different perspective that almost feels like an art house game.
There's a game, an old game. Speaking of old of art house games, there's an old game made by Virgin Games back in the '90s called Another World. And it was very cinematic. It's on Xbox. They just released.
Yeah, I remember we were playing it like before the night.
And it's very cinematic, and every screen, it's like kind of like Limbo, where every screen is a puzzle, and you have to run in certain directions. You're like a physicist that gets transported to another world, hence the name. And then you're getting chased by this black tar that can produce teeth out of itself, and then it's a wild game, and then you run into this alien species. a guy in prison helps you break out, and who's another alien, and you and him go on this, this quest to get back home. That game, I'm sorry, Replaced, just brought me memories of that game. That game was dear to, like
And
that.
I
That was
knew that you would love that game because it's so up your alley.
yeah, yeah. I really, I was like, oh man, that looks so cool.
And I'm really impressed just visually. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if I'll finish it. Like I'll be honest with you. Like, again, I play so many games sometimes that I don't finish everything we try. Right.
Right, right, right.
Some things I do go back to. Like I tried this indie game on Game Pass called Chrono Cross.
Chrono
Love this
Cross.
game. Oh my god! If this game came out in the Super Nintendo era, like it makes me, it takes
Yeah.
me back to those times. It has a great combo system, great story, very colorful palettes, and you're a player in this game, but you're in a World of Warcraft world.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? And everyone moves around. Like the game feels alive because there's almost like how they populate uh, citizens in like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
They do the same thing, but in this Super Nintendo looking type of world. In this
Wow.
2D plane, you have people running around everywhere constantly. Because like, oh shit, it makes it feel like if this game was made during that era, it would have been like a sprawling event, or like these are other people playing the game.
Right, right. That's really cool. That's really cool. That's something that probably couldn't have been done back in the 90s.
No way.
But with today's,
Sensibilities,
yeah.
what we know now, and even its homages to like like Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's
Yeah.
like hidden jokes everywhere about different series and geeky things.
Okay.
And but again,
Easter eggs and stuff.
Easter eggs, making homages
Yeah.
to World of Warcraft and the MMO style of gameplay.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And but again, I wouldn't have tried it if it wasn't for Game Pass. A lot of indie games I wouldn't have tried if it wasn't for Game Pass.
And Replay seems to be in one of those categories,
Yeah.
right? Of game that maybe would like fall under the radar, but you play it and you're like, oh shit, this is fun.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you just, even if you don't finish it, it's just a couple of hours. You're waiting to go out or something, and you got a couple hours between now and the time you got to do something. You turn it on, and it's just mindless couch fun. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And
That's
it's like,
definitely that's definitely like another indie game. I don't know if you ever see me playing Children of Morta.
No,
It's
I
a
haven't.
roguelike where you're constantly like if you die you go back, but you play as this family that has to like defeat some great evil, and every map you have to get to the boss, right?
And you play as a different family member.
You play
right?
as different
Yeah,
family
yeah,
members,
yeah.
and they each play differently. They have their their own upgrades, and they have individual upgrades, and then the upgrades for the entire family. Like if you level up the dad to a high enough level, everyone's health gets boosted.
Is that still on Game Pass?
That's still on Game Pass.
What is it called again?
Children of Morta.
Children
And
of
that
Morta.
has co-op too, so we can play together.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna try it out because that sounds cool. Because you said if a family member dies, you have to play as a different one, right?
Exactly.
It's like Friday the 13th when a teenager gets killed. You have to play as a different teenager.
And again,
Back
each
in
of them
NES
have
days?
this, and each of them have their own playstyle, which makes it fun.
Yeah.
It kind of breaks you out of the mold and learn how to play each character. Because
Yeah.
again, you want to play each one to level up that. Again, it's a game about family. You want this family to succeed, not this just one character.
Right, right.
But either way, like I mentioned, I love these indie games because it gives me opportunity to try out something that I don't think I would have otherwise.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're buying games. It 4 indie games cost you what, like $80 to $20 each.
Yeah.
Would you spend that money on like 3 or 4 indie games, or
Probably not.
buy a $60-$70 AAA game that you'll play hundreds of hours for?
Yeah.
But either way, I'm still. If they ever leave Game Pass, I'm definitely buying them. I put so much time into them.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm all in. I'll buy it once it leaves Game Pass.
I think that's one of the benefits of Game Pass. But another thing about those indie games is it also, you kind of like start to see budding studios
Yeah.
that are working on maybe not AAA titles, but you can kind of start watching studios that way by playing these games that are lower scale, more indie, lower budget. You can kind of watch them, and as they develop and take on
And flourish.
exactly, and you can kind of like track a studio's progress, and as an enthusiast, that's a good thing. That's
The
something
people who are making
that's an exciting thing.
the people who made Hyper Light Drifter, I don't know if you ever played the game,
No, I
super
haven't.
stylish, sold really well. Now they're making this crazy game called Solar Ash, and again,
Yeah.
they couldn't have gotten there without the success of what they got
Yeah.
with Hyper Light Drifter.
Even Insomniac, right, where they started with Sunset Overdrive. What were they doing before that?
Oh, I mean, they've done a lot of things. They've done all the raccoon games from PlayStation. With the thief guy, Sly Cooper.
Sly Cooper. Okay, I forgot about that.
They-
They
they-
also did the old Tony Hawk's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a history.
Yeah,
They've
yeah,
always
yeah.
been there.
Right. Now I remember.
But
I
either way,
forgot about that.
I'm excited to play replaced. Again, they follow all these gloomy games. Metroid Dread replaced. They don't look like happy games.
Somerville.
Somerville, like they don't look like happy games. But you know what is kind of happy and wacky? Redfall by Arcane Studios coming out on Game Pass on 2022 summer. I can't wait. Tito, how can you watch? How can you watch that trailer and not get excited?
No, you get hyped.
You get hyped. You have such cool, different looking cast of characters, weird powers, things that you hadn't, not that you haven't seen before, but a new play on powers. Or again, I know it's just a hype trailer. It's just a cinematic. We don't know what the game looks like. We know it's an open world, 4-player co-op game where people have powers and you're fighting zombies. That, guess what? They also have powers and shit. We have to beat.
Oh, they're not zombies. Oh, they're vampires.
Oh, I'm sorry, vampires.
Yeah.
That are blacking out the sun and just crazy stuff. And again, same thing that I liked about Far Cry. It just has a personality. Redfall has like an image and a style that defines it, right? Then I think that's what really grabbed me onto it because again, like Borderlands, right? Borderlands has a style. It has a humor.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
You know, like it has its following for a reason. It developed the style over time, and Redfall looks like this might be Arcane's best game. Now, I don't want to. I love Prey. I love Dishonored. They're amazing games. They are critical darlings that didn't do well successfully, right? So now that
financially,
financially. So then imagine now that they're given free reign to just make a good game, like without having the pressure to sell these copies, you're making it for Game Pass.
Right.
I think now you can get to see almost like Outriders, right?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna have their this is gonna be our all.
It looked like a cross between Borderlands and
Left 4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
Borderlands and Left 4 Dead. Like and the vampires being the enemies. I can't think of a game that has hordes of vampires like this. You know what I mean? Where it's like I know there's like vampire games, you know.
Yeah, like the Masquerade, that's a vampire game, but that's not that type of game. It's just, that's more like a story, like, hey, let me talk to you.
They all tend to be like gothic-y and
Victorian.
Yeah. Like even Dishonored. I mean, Dishonored is literally Victorian setting it, even though it has nothing to do with vampires. I don't think. I didn't play that far into it.
It feels like a Victorian steampunk almost, you
yeah,
know?
Yeah.
Which I love. Again, I love Dishonored. I think Dishonored is one of the cool series I don't think enough people give credit for or play enough.
Yeah,
you know?
It has its place. It definitely has its place. But again, we've all seen Castlevania already. You know, so like the Victorian thing, the fact that this is a modern day vampire hunting crew, and it looks like they're having fun doing it.
Yeah,
and it's
everyone has their own power. Guy turns
real
invisible,
cheeky.
Has a sniper bullet. Girl has magical powers
and
with like
robot
elevators.
Pet.
Robot pet. I'm not sure what the guy does. The like scientist looking dude.
Yeah.
But either way, they're all exciting.
Yeah, very.
They have that personality, that funness, that like I say to my girlfriend, Borderlands, because we play Borderlands a lot. We played the pre-sequel, the original Borderlands, Borderlands 2, Borderlands 3. We're gonna play all the new stuff that's coming out with Tina's Wonderlands, right?
Yeah.
Again, what's fun about those games is not only playing and getting loot and stuff like that, but playing as those characters because they have their own personality and they have their own style of play.
Yeah.
Like even though they shoot the same, they use the same weapons. Their powers and their talents defines them, almost like Outriders.
And it changes, absolutely like Outriders, where and even a little bit like BioShock, where the different abilities change, kind of like your flow. Right. The way you use those different abilities, it alters the way you approach,
scenarios,
different rooms, different scenarios, different fights, different firefights, and things like that. So that's exciting to see, especially with squad based. I mean, that's something that I feel that this last generation of Xbox really kind of slept on multiplayer.
Because I don't think we just didn't have like the player base, or Xbox didn't have the player base.
Do you think that's the case? Because I mean, they just got off the heels of 360, which was it's not so much
heavily multiplayer focused. Gears, Call of Duty,
but that's
Halo.
What I'm saying though. Like that, they fell asleep on
Left 4 Dead was on Xbox.
They fell asleep on their bread and butter.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? So the fact that
Titanfall debuted on Xbox One.
Sure.
You know.
But what I mean is the fact that they're bringing it back to that.
Yeah.
You know, multiplayer co-op, things like that made their previous generation successful.
Right.
They're doing that with the added advantage of Game Pass. I think that they might be onto something. I hope that they're
No,
onto
they
something
definitely
because
have, because people who have Game Pass are gonna play with other people who have Game Pass.
yeah,
There's no like if I told you, hey Tito, get Redfall, how much is it? No, you
yeah,
get it. It's
yeah,
on Game
yeah.
Pass.
If you pay for Game Pass, you got it.
You got it, and I
Yeah,
think that's the beauty of it, that you can get your
yeah,
friends
it's
on
great.
it. You get them a phone.
Yeah,
Have them play on Game Pass on their phone. Get them an Xbox streaming stick. Again, that's the
mhm.
future that they're building towards. They're gonna make this lineup of games that just you can't ignore for the deal that you're getting.
Eh,
Even if you're paying $20 for Game Pass, let's say if they jump the price by
yeah,
$5, you're still getting so much
yeah,
value out of it.
yeah.
Especially when
It's a crazy
considering
deal.
especially when you consider that Sony is asking $70, or every new game now, right, is asking for $70 now, to buy into this experience.
Yeah,
And remember, you that's the initial price. You don't get the season pass. You don't get the
hmm,
DLC that comes afterwards.
yeah,
That costs more money.
yeah, yeah. That's where they get you, man. Oof.
Which again, I get it. They have to make their money. They have to monetize it. We don't live in a world where it's a one and done anymore.
Yeah,
You have to keep making money on those
yeah,
games.
yeah.
How do you make money? Add skins, add microtransactions, or add
Oh
expansions.
man, skins. That's my
Your Achilles heel.
yeah, man. I have no will. I have no willpower.
But either way, Redfall looks really up my alley. I can't wait for you, me, and Brenna, and your brother,
Yeah.
even all four of us,
Or
get on
Jesse.
there
Yeah, man.
and just slaughter a bunch of vampires and just go. Did you
Yeah.
ever play a game called Hunter's Reckoning on the
No,
GameCube
no.
or Xbox?
No, I didn't.
I'll show you a trailer later, but
Nice.
that was a good time for me in high school. When me and my buddies would get together in the same room, and it was just a vampire zombie slaying game. You had like a very generic like gothic characters. You had a dark mage, a guy with a crossbow, someone with like a big Excalibur sword. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just really fun. And that reminds me of that, just on a bigger scale.
Different archetypes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I saw the parallels to Left 4 Dead right away. I think that that's a niche that hasn't been filled by any game. Like think
Mhm.
about it. Like they tried it with Evolve a little bit
Yeah.
where it was like, but that's a niche that kind of the battle royale game kind of smothered that niche. I don't know if that makes sense.
I don't think it smothered it. It's okay. Left 4 Dead did it so well. People wanted more Left 4 Dead.
Right.
But there weren't people making Left 4 Dead quality games.
Yeah.
You're starting to see. There was actually an article. Sorry, I forgot which website. I think Polygon
Sure.
or Kotaku or somebody. They had mentioned how this E3 you had so many Left 4 Dead lookalike games,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
Back for Blood,
Right.
Redfall. Again, other games, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of games. I didn't have the list of the article. I didn't think we were going to reference it.
Second extension.
The second
Yeah,
extension,
I
right?
couldn't even get it out. But yeah,
Um,
that game kind of has like a Left 4 Dead vibe. The pacing
Exactly.
of it.
Exactly. It has that franticness, that
Yeah,
cool, like
yeah.
we just kill a bunch of stuff right now,
Yeah.
and that shit was crazy.
Yeah.
Like it has
And you
that
can
magic
breathe.
and power. But again, because we had been waiting for Valve for so long to make game or make a Left 4 Dead follow up, but we know they're not in that business anymore. They're just there to make Steam to make more money. They're not really
Right.
into the game development business. Well, into Half Life Alex with the VR, and again, they're
Right.
trying some things, but they don't make games anymore.
They're taking their sweet ass time.
they're
man.
they're a store. They're a store at
Yeah.
the end of the day. They make Dota and they have a Steam. They don't have to
Wow.
make. They can rest on their laurels just on that.
You don't think that they're gonna go back and do any
They
developing
have
games?
studios. They have
Yeah.
people working on stuff. But the thing is, like, they have people working on stuff for like 20 years now without a
Right.
single game to come out.
Maybe they're thinking long term then. 'cause,
I just think
geez,
that they just have people working on stuff just in case.
tax write-offs.
E-
They're run by the
exactly.
mob. I'm just kidding.
But talking about co-op multiplayer games about a crazy story and killing hordes of enemies. Rob, what's the next game that we're both excited for?
Halo Infinite.
Oh snap!
That E3 trailer. Ah man, that got me hyped, man. The multiplayer got me hyped. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay,
As a Halo fan, I saw that multiplayer. It looked smooth. It looked like everything I liked from 5 and from 4. I didn't really have any beef with it. I was looking at it and it made me want to play.
Mhm.
So much so that we've been playing Halo. We've been playing Master Chief Collection
Mhm.
just because I felt pumped.
We
Like,
want to go back.
yeah, I want to be ready by the time that game comes out. There's something nostalgic about it. There's something we can split hairs all we want about but at the end of the day,
I want to split hairs, all right.
but at the end of the day, I feel like it's a thing that it's if it's good and smooth, it's going to be fun,
Right.
and it's just going to be the new version of the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Just like Gears, it could
yeah,
be just another solid entry.
it could be a situation of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You
Right.
know, and the fact that they were trying to do something, deviate from something, but
Which
kind
I
of pussy.
appreciate.
But I appreciate
Yeah.
it. But they were a little, they're pussyfooting it a
They didn't
little
hit.
bit. They
They
were
didn't hit
like,
the mark.
I think they weren't leaning in hard enough
Hmm.
to the change. But if that's the case, then you have to lean in on the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
Then you got to make that immaculate. The mechanics that have been there from day one have got to be smooth as shit. You know, so I just seeing the speed. I noticed certain customization in some of the vehicles and in some of the armors that I haven't seen before. I thought Halo Infinite, especially the multiplayer, really got me. The story trailer was good, but the multiplayer is what got me.
Okay. I was not excited when I saw the E3 trailer among the Xbox conference.
Right.
I did it. It didn't show me anything I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
But Phil Spencer and the team came out saying, "Hey, we didn't want to make a demo or anything. We have our heads down. We're working on the game
Yeah.
to get it out this holiday." Great, because so many times you have stories where that Cyberpunk demo that was showed at E3
Was bullshit.
was pure bullshit and just made
bullshit.
just for E3. That was
Yeah.
never part of the development.
Yeah.
They had to stop and take time to make that demo for the E3 show while they're still figuring out what they were going to do with the game.
Yeah. It's like writing a movie after you've cut the trailer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Which again, that sounds terrible. It sucks.
But
I can't
it
wait.
happens.
I can't wait to hear the book that comes out for it about what had happened with the development of that game.
Yeah.
Like there's this writer, a journalist. The one again, the Jason Schreier.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote about books about what happened with Mass Effect, Andromeda, all these other games that had trouble developments, right? And again, a lot of these books have such cool, interesting story of how, great ideas, management gets in the way, things fall apart, right?
Yeah.
And it sucks because at the
Too
end of
many
the day,
cooks in the kitchen.
right? And again, it's a company; they have to make money, and it's that balance between art and like fun and money, or sorry, fun and profit, right?
Right.
I think
Playability and profit.
right,
Yeah.
like and for me, Halo just doesn't look like it's at the level where, at least the story still looks like not that impressive. I love that they showed that younger Cortana that we had been teased about in the games about Halsey getting I don't remember what she called it, but the data, right? She's
The
getting
backup or something.
the backup of Cortana's personality and everything that they need in order to fight a rampant Cortana. Is even rampant Cortana in this? Like, we don't know what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Are they following straight up from 5? Is this a soft reboot of the story? We don't know. And that's a little exciting. I love how Master Chief is shown briefly, and we still don't get that much. We see the scope.
What's up with his armor?
Yeah, what's up with his armor? We see the scope of the Halo ring. That looks cool. We hadn't seen that before. I love how it's almost like Gears, semi-open world, semi-linear.
Yeah.
You're gonna have your missions and places you gotta go to, but you have more ability to explore. And after playing Halo 3, playing some of the older games, again, they were very linear. Like, you're going to point A, point B, and point C, right?
Yeah.
And then Gears of War really changed that formula up with 5, where they made it semi-open world. You have encampments where you have your dogfights, right? But then you have the entire area to explore.
Yeah.
Not a lot to explore. Like, granted, not as much as, like, let's say in Assassin's Creed, right?
Reach was pretty expansive though, right? Reach, the level design in Reach, wasn't it pretty
But
expansive?
it was still linear though. Like,
it
ODST,
had like really
Reacher.
small corridors at times.
Exactly. Or you're going from A to B to C. You
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah.
a world to play in.
That's
Because
true.
the world to play in Halo was always in the multiplayer. Those are the sandboxes you got to play in.
Yeah.
You know,
Forge World and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Too.
And again, I wasn't excited or sold really on Infinite. I understand why they didn't show that much. They wanted, you know what? We're gonna shut up. Just make the fucking game,
Yeah.
and you're gonna see
And let the game speak for itself.
exactly. Let the game speak for itself. Like, you're gonna get Halo. You're gonna love it.
What were your impressions of the multiplayer though?
That's where it got me.
Yeah.
When I saw I don't know if it was in that same day, but the multiplayer extended trailer where you
Yes.
got to see the developers talk about everything they had done to improve the multiplayer. Oh my god, I was so fucking sold.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
that got me hyped. Every single change that they make, sprinting allowed. Again, like, we always had that conversation: is Halo too old? You know, versus the no sprint with the sprint.
Yeah.
I modernize fucking Halo.
Sprint.
Modernize that shit.
Sprint. That's what you want.
and they're still keeping the team-based arena deathmatch, right?
Yeah.
They're still keeping to their roots. They're not making a battle royale. They're making the best Halo multiplayer that they can make.
Yeah.
They're not, but again, but modernizing it, right? You're able to steal people's weapons. They're able to steal their abilities. Like if they had an overshield, you pick it up.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
When you look at the trailer, when someone shoots a rocket, all the stuff on the floor flies off everywhere. There's
Nice.
physics in the game now. Like there's just things that look really really fun, and again, it just brings you back. And the fact that it's free to play on Xbox and PC opens that game up to so much success and a big player base. Battle passes to earn custom armor pieces and things like that.
That's where the money's at.
All free.
Oh, really?
All free, and guess what? Even if you didn't play that season, you can still get those battle pass rewards when you come back.
Kind of like Master Chief Collection.
Mm-hmm.
Right on, man. I didn't know all of that. I didn't know that they redid the. Did they say like whether they redid the physics or what engine is they're using or?
They didn't say any of that, but you can clearly tell based on on the interviews that they did or on that trailer. That's that again. They made a new engine. I think it does not look like 5 engines. Five didn't play that way.
Right.
5 was very tight, very great multiplayer, but it didn't feel like
snappy. 5 snapped.
This one feels a little floaty because you're able to do more things, more aerial combat. You have that grappling hook. To be able to have more not aerial fights, but aerial tactical position.
Vertical play.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was one of my main concerns with Outriders. There's not enough vertical gameplay. It's kind of flat.
And that's where Halo got me. I think once I saw that trailer, I'm like, you know what? I remember having great nights in high school with our friends. Fucking split screen. Fucking playing on Blood Ghost. Let's go, baby. Let's go back to that.
Yesterday we were playing the last level of Halo 3.
Halo.
And Kevin and I we got a. We got on the choppers and we did a chopper race, and I felt like a kid, man. Like we were just guffawing. We weren't even laughing. We were just cackling at one point, and that's why I love Halo, because you get moments like that in that game where it's just it's just hilarious. It's fun. It's funny. It's light. And it's like it goes back. It is just a sweet spot for it. So seeing the possibility for more good times is irresistible to me on that front.
I'm down to go back to Halo multiplayer, because again, I only stopped playing 5 because everyone else did. Like it's not fun to play by yourself against a team of 4 people that are probably on the same team. Like it's just not for me.
What did you think of the graphics upgrade?
The graphics look really cool. I like how it's the battle rifle looks tremendously a lot better based on the screenshots that I saw later. Of like, this is how they updated the battle rifle, and this
versus
is how it looked
5?
like. No, versus how they showed it at the last E3.
Right.
Like it's a huge enhancement.
Yeah.
But even then, I heard some stories about how that E3 demo wasn't ready for public show. That they actually were still working on it, and that's what they showed. But again, who knows, right?
Yeah.
There's all rumors, all scuttlebutt. The games industry is so secretive. Like it's not like the movie industry where like people, oh yeah, we're making this movie. These people are in it. I'm like, no, like, no, don't tell them what feature we have in this.
It's important to time your releases or your announcements, because it all factors into how it sells. You don't want to release a game or information about a game too soon, because by the time the game comes out, people are fatigued of it and they don't buy it.
Or you have the opposite effect where you were making the game for so long, the industry changed. Like by the time Fallout 4 came out, we had Witcher. We had so many other games that were doing it better.
And there was a game, I forgot what it was called. It was Beyond Human, I think, or Beyond Human or something like that. It came out for the 360.
Oh yeah, Beyond Human.
And it was like, it just had so much hubbub before it came out. But I think it was intended to be like a PS2 game or something like that, or an Xbox game, and then it came out on the 360, and it was a disappointment.
It was.
Yeah. So it's like sometimes you don't want to overwork the thing either.
Yeah, and again, like some games people will gravitate to. There'll be those cult classics, those massive hits, or the ones that peter out. Like I still fucking die by that. The best IP that Nintendo has made in the last years wasn't Splatoon for me. It was actually the fighting game ARMS. I fucking loved
Oh, I never
Arms.
played that one.
Dude, like Arms was my favorite fighting game, at least for that time. I played so much Arms, and I did the one my cardinal sin of not playing with people online because I hate
Mm.
that ranked battles and thing.
Yeah.
I played so much Arms multiplayer. I didn't care who I played, even if I lost. I just
Yeah.
loved playing that game,
That sounds
and
fun.
that's a game that again didn't catch on for them. It didn't catch up to the same level as Splatoon, which Splatoon just took off, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like they have tournaments, they have everything for that game.
Yeah.
For me, it was Arms, and I wish Arms got more love, and I would love to see an Arms 2, where they
Yeah.
develop and develop that game to have more stuff to do. The problem with Arms was not the combat or the characters. That was great. It was content, just not enough
I
content.
see. What do you think games should do that have maybe like their solid mechanics, solid story, solid everything, right? But maybe they have an element like, for example, like Arkham Origins, right,
Mm-hmm.
where it had the multiplayer function, right? Do you
Arkham
think
Origins had a multiplayer
it had a
function.
multiplayer function
What?
where you played as Batman and Robin, and then you
I didn't
played,
even know that. I only
yeah,
played it for the single player.
yeah. But you played as different gang members too, like Joker or Two Face and Penguin gangsters.
What?
Yeah, and then you
Was it versus or co-op?
it was versus. It was like
What?
four. It was two people play as Batman and Robin, and then a team of four play as the goons.
You're
And
blowing
then
my mind.
yeah, and it wasn't very good, and there was not much. Matchmaking took forever.
Was that the time where a lot of single player games were just putting
Yeah,
multiplayer stuff
that
in
was
it because
2000,
that was just what you had to do?
shit. What was it? 2013 or something like
Yeah.
that. 2012.
Bioshock 2 had a
Yeah.
multiplayer shooter
For
that didn't
no
fucking need it.
reason. Yeah. Dead Space 3, I think it was.
Assassin's Creed 2, they had a multiplayer.
Assassin's Creed 2 had a multiplayer?
Yeah.
Oh shit, yeah, but you were only one as you could be Altair, you could be Ezio, and then you could be a bunch of nobodies.
It might have been 3. I might be full of shit, but one of them had a multiplayer. One of them did have
The
a multiplayer.
pirate one had a shit multiplayer.
Yeah.
The black flag, I think. You could be like different crews having naval fights.
I don't think you can, because of games like Warzone, because of games like Fortnite and Apex, multiplayer games are really good right now. They're really well polished and they're free.
Yeah.
You can't compete with free.
But what I meant to ask was, do you think those games, the games that like Far Cry 5, tried out multiplayer co-op, it wasn't good?
Yeah.
Do you think they should abandon that, or do you think that they should lean in and develop that in which was weak, or do you think they should stick to what they know? What do you think developers should do, or does it depend on the product versus what the expectation of the franchise is?
I think I always believe that the developers should stick with what they know, but do the dreams that they always wanted to do, or put a refresh on it. Right? Look at God of War. That game that you played in 2017. Or 2016. Anyways, that God of War remake almost looks nothing like the God of Wars that came before it, right? Completely remade from the ground up, but still had the heart of what was an action adventure game to a heartfelt story with a lot of action, right?
Yeah.
Again, I feel like developers should stick with what they know, but if you're not multiplayer, if you don't know how to do that, why are you doing it? Look at fucking Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
Clearly, their ability, that studio is known for single player amazing content. That story was so duct taped together by the end of it. Imagine if they didn't do any of the multiplayer stuff and just made the story even better and longer.
Which is probably what we're going to get with the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
And a lot of people are already shitting on that game too, because guess what? They're fucking burned on Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
I saw that. I mean, you see a lot of Twitter replies, or even on their Reddits, like how is this gonna be any better than Avengers? Of course, we know now it's single player. There's no multiplayer in that game.
Yeah.
But again, some people are just already burned because it's the same company, Square-Enix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man, that was a letdown. But I mean, Square-Enix, they hit or miss. Outriders, I think, was a solid.
That was a success.
Yeah, that was a success. But it's hopefully that comes out. The Guardians game is a little bit of a redemption, and by the time the Guardian games come out, hopefully Avengers in a much more polished state. But going back to Halo, like that I would love to see a return to couch co-op. I would love to see that, even if it's based on, I understand they need to sell consoles. I get that, but they can definitely work in some way where you have to have a console to log on and play split screen couch co-op, you know?
See, for me, Halo is one of those games like Gears. It's just not the story. It, you can't make the story okay and the multiplayer great, or make the story amazing
It's
and the
balance.
multiplayer shitty. It- that series is known for amazing single player content and amazing
Yeah.
multiplayer. Something that, again, Gears gets right.
Call of Duty does that pretty well
Gears has
for
never stopped
their
putting
niche.
right, exactly. Gears has never stopped putting horde mode into their Gears of War ever since the second one.
Yeah.
Every single title has had horde modes, improvement and changes, but guess what? Always a horde mode.
That was their unique contribution to multiplayer,
And
though.
that changed the landscape because after Gears of War 2 had come out, guess what? Lots of games started putting
Halo has Firefight.
Firefight.
Yeah.
Which, again, I love Firefight.
Oh, me too. Me too. It's great.
But if it wasn't for Gears, you wouldn't see these horde mode added to other games.
And it's such a simple, unique spin on multiplayer. I mean, it's just playing co-op.
Yeah.
Multiplayer.
Or even like Battle Royales, just putting a bunch of people on the same map, last man standing. That's not that hard of a concept, but it just never caught on in the same way that it caught on this generation.
Right. Battlefield, the days of Battlefield 2 at internet cafes. Remember that shit? I remember that. We used to go after school and stuff. We'd go to the internet cafe, drink boba, and fucking just play. It'd be like 5 of us, and we'd be playing guys on the other side of the room. And you're just yelling at them, talking shit. It was great, man.
I feel like developers should, well, at least in when it comes to 343 Industries, stick to what you know. But I want you to also take risks. Now, but what I mean by take risks is take risks with the single player. Make that as crazy as you want. Let the multiplayer do what they do best, right?
Keep polishing
Balance.
it.
Polishing it. Make it. There's a reason why Counter-Strike Go is still being played after so many years.
So you're saying more so to take. That's a good point, by the way. Counter-Strike. They don't get much older than that. That's like the original. So
and it's just been perfected on and updated constantly. Again, huge community, and if you build a good game, people will come. That's what happened with Rainbow Six Siege. Again, that game didn't get that much fanfare when it came out, but they slowly built over time that game to the point where it's such a huge franchise now.
So your perfect Halo game would be a combination of a polished, familiar multiplayer with a polished, familiar campaign that takes risks narratively.
Because I feel like, okay, if we're gonna finish Chief's story with this one or whatever happens, right? Let's start going away from Master Chief. Let's explore this universe. This universe is bigger than Chief.
There's a reason why most Halo fans say that the best games are ODST and Reach. A lot of Halo fans say ODST and Reach are the best ones. Most people like the first one.
Yeah.
They say the first one's the strongest.
It's a classic.
Yeah, but I think ODST and Reach are definitely they're my favorite games because they're and I think they're my brother's favorite games too. They explore it. You're not Chief. The Chief story is set. It's just this badass soldier who's like fucking RoboCop mixed with fucking Superman and Captain America, and he's just this dope ass guy, right? Silent fucking space soldier, marine, right? But then you go outside of that and you see what happens when a group of Spartans go on a suicide mission. You see what happens when a group of ODST gets broken up and has to regroup in a city that's under siege. Those, I think, expanding on the universe in that way, seeing the same familiar fight from different angles.
Yeah,
and I think
I told you, like when we were talking about that when we were playing one day, that Halo 5 could have been great if we had known ahead of time that, you know what, this is a story about Locke and this Spartan. Let's tell his story, and then the next one they're gonna, Halo. I'm sorry, Master Chief and Locke are gonna be whatever, right?
They should have just made a Halo Nightfall game.
Yeah.
That was in vein of ODST, where it's the guy nipping at the heels of Chief. By cutting the game together, it just had pacing issues up the wazoo. From the beginning, there was pacing issues in Halo 5.
And again, I have no issues with them introducing brand new characters and even making Buck a Spartan. That's amazing. That's the stuff that Halo nerds go crazy about. Yeah. And Team Osiris, again, solid ideas. Yeah. Just don't think the execution. What was sold and marketed wasn't there either. No, because we were sold when you look at the marketing material, when you look at the trailers, that was Spartan a completely different game. And
you were looking at a Spartan showdown that never happened.
Yeah. And how are you gonna, again? Maybe they didn't want to tell us the story. Maybe they wanted to, keep the secret and the twist in it. Yeah. But the thing is, like, okay, but what's the twist?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that good of a twist. Cortana's going crazy. Good. I
Yeah,
mean, not good, but I'm saying
you've been saying that for 3 games.
exactly.
Yeah.
This isn't new. This is
Yeah.
not a crazy twist.
Yeah, no, that I think if they would have stayed on Chief, right? A couple of months later, release Locke's side, have Locke be in the game, but have 10 levels of Chief at least, and then release 5 levels of Locke. 6 months later, 3 months later, where you can play the scenes where you run into Chief, and Chief is the antagonist.
Right.
But we've already played Chief's story arc, and that's that. That would have been my ideal, kind of like you're doing Halo 3 and you're doing Halo DST, but the rookie in this case, which would be Locke, intersects with Chief's story, right? And I think that would have been cool. That would have been better. For as far as like the Chief story, I think narratively, they should be taking risks. I think that they're missing opportunities in expanding the universe. As far as like, why haven't we gotten an Elite game? If the mechanics are all there, seeing an Elite game that has swordplay elaborated on. I think we talked about this.
Where did the Arbiter go? How did they rebuild? Yeah. Did they find a new alien race that they have to do war with?
Or the Covenant showing up in their planet, the Elite's planet, the saying Helios or whatever, and fucking with them, and they have to fight off the Covenant because now they're peaceful or whatever. There's so many ways this story can go that they're not taking an opportunity to go in or a risk in going in, because they want to play the same cyclical thing about Chief and Cortana.
And I think taking those risks can pay off later on in the future. Like what Gears is doing now with the handing of the torch, your Force Awakens in 4, and then guess what? This is now these kids' Gears of War story. Yeah. Not the old people, but I'm saying like the old characters, they're there, but this is not about them. This is about them. These group of characters.
Yeah, they're now supporting characters.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would have loved the handing of the torch in Halo for that as well. Yeah. And again, I thought that's where we were going with Reach and ODST, introducing us to a bigger world of characters that isn't just Chief. Like Chief could be the Luke Skywalker, right? God damn it! I went back to Star Wars. Chief
Where's my button?
Chief could be the Luke Skywalker of the story, where he comes out and he just wrecks shit because guess what? He's the legend.
Yeah, when all hope is lost. There could be a level where all hope is lost and you just see Chief fucking shit up.
He's the Deus Ex Machina. Like, we need Chief.
There you go. No, there's definitely there's a lot they could work on. I just hope it's a solid entry. I hope it's a return to form. Yeah. I hope that from here, this could be like a soft reset, kind of work out the kinks of the last couple of years, and then start something new. Because it's not, let's face it, it's not going anywhere.
Okay. If it's not going anywhere, there's been rumors around, is this episodic for the story? Do you get a sizable chunk and build on it as the years go by?
It definitely could be. I mean, we saw that in Destiny, and there's no reason why Halo wouldn't borrow from Destiny. Right. If that Destiny was the logical progression off of Halo, maybe it's time for Halo to borrow off of Destiny and become episodic, and every couple of months have events. They tried that with the Spartan. What was it called? Where there was like a season of Spartan shit. I forgot what it was called. But in Halo 4, where you went back and played some story levels.
Spartan Ops.
Spartan Ops.
Yeah.
But those didn't go anywhere. There was a lot of promise, and then they didn't deliver on it. And they.
It almost felt like busy work.
But they never even said why.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever getting like a statement or anything. It just never happened.
If there was story, it was very minimal because I don't remember really. Yeah. I mean, maybe when we get to 4. Then if they still have them, we can play through them.
I think the big thing that happened is they amputated Halsey's arm in Spartan Ops.
Yeah.
If I remember right, Halsey's arm was amputated in Spartan Ops, not in game.
Right.
I might be full of shit though. That's why we need a fact checker.
We need a fact checker. But either way, we're really excited for all these announcements that are coming out. It sounds like Xbox is going to have a good year. Nintendo's going to have a good year. They announced a lot of good games.
Yeah.
A new look at Breath of the Wild 2, which I'm fucking dope and excited for. Because Breath of the Wild is still my game of the decade.
Yeah, Metroid Dread 2 looks great, man.
Metroid Dread looks great. I can't wait to see what PlayStation announces at their event, because it did feel like we were missing PlayStation. Like you always have the 1, 2, 3 punch from Microsoft, Nintendo, and PlayStation. The big dogs, right?
Yeah.
It did feel a little empty without PlayStation, but I can't wait to see what they're cooking up, right? Because they're gonna have something good.
Are they doing something with Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 5?
There's some rumors going on that Ghost of Tsushima may have its own standalone expansion, a la Miles Morales, where
Wonderful.
you could buy this single standalone thing
Uh-huh.
and not need the base game for it.
Okay, okay. That's great. I want to play that game. I can't wait to play
Definitely.
that game. Yeah.
Oh, and also there's rumors that it's coming out on PC. So if you don't have a PlayStation, you can play it on your computer.
Cool, cool.
Well, thank you for joining everyone for our E3 special. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Good chatting, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.